Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. The drama going into Masters Toronto continues. The regular season is only just getting started, but Toronto tickets were on sale as of yesterday and big drama hitting the timeline as a result. Many questions on exactly what the scalpers were doing on the website that they've decided to use to actually sell these tickets, meaning that many people that wanted to actually go to Masters Toronto are now going to find that very challenging indeed, especially with the event venue potentially not being what it could have been. Loads of drama, not just from fans, but from players as well. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today as always. Just a quick update around the world of VALORANT 2 in terms of what matches have been going on and are continuing to be going on, such as the following. So, in Challenges Japan, a couple of interesting games. Zeta Division took down the DFM Academy. Honey Bunny and the guys over there. Of course, like, the battle of the Japanese Academy teams for now, at least some of the more notable ones. Today is a big day as well because the European Games do officially get underway. So, yeah, just a few hours time, we're going to have Vitality versus Giant X and BBL versus Carmine Corps. So, we'll see how those games get on. Of course, then it's Heretics Apex, it's FUT Esports versus the KOI team, the Movistar KOI team. And then, Fnatic Na'Vi, Liquid versus Gentlemates. Potentially Fnatic Na'Vi, one of the pick of the bunches, shall we say, on paper anyway, at least historically, based on how good those teams should theoretically be. In the Pacific, just a quick look over there as well. Obviously, everything is getting underway again in a couple of days. Some they've all played their first round game on the 30th. We get this big Gen.G versus Paper X game, and also Team Secrets versus, Zeta Division as well. So both of these games, all of these games are going to be very, very impactful indeed. That game that we just mentioned, though, in the other side is a really important one because, with Paper X and Gen.G both starting out 0-1, whoever loses that series is already going to look like they're in a little bit of danger, not even to make it to their own playoffs, which of course would be an absolute shambles from top to bottom, right? Now, we're going to talk about the major, at least Masters Toronto here in a second, and it's a big deal how and where they're deciding to execute this, right? So, the rumor has it, this was a potential option for their events that they could have potentially had. Instead, they're going to kit out this space instead. Now, this is a convention center in Toronto, and a big one at that. And this seems to be the space that they are planning to use for the Masters event in Toronto. So then you've got to think, okay, why? Does it come down to cost? Likely, yes, you would imagine, given some of the options that are available. But yes, Hunty said the other day, now this is a week or so ago, how is Masters Toronto going to be held here? Now, that's the other thing about this event as well, not even the ticket stuff, but just this is the event hall. This, I believe, is Exhibition Hall A, where they're going to be hosting Masters Toronto. But what you'll notice, of course, is that there's a number of pillars holding up the roof, making sure everything is nice and robust. But how are you going to make that work? Surely that would be, typically anyway, what you'd want to have is a big seating fan area over at this side. You then have the stage round about here, and then of course you need a lot of stuff backstage, the production stuff. Where are you going to put the players to warm up? Back when I went to Call of Duty World League Anaheim back in 2019, they had a similar massive hallway like this, and but no pillars, of course, in there, and they had roughly about here or so, where I'm drawing the line here, would be the main stage, and then back here they would have all the backstage production stuff, and then back in this kind of corner they'd have some of the player warm-up areas and all that type of good stuff. But, surely these pillars are going to kind of get in the way. So, that was a big kind of point of controversy, really. And, of course, it's also not... look, it has a capacity, it has a reasonable capacity, but for one of the biggest events that should be in the history of VALORANT, it's maybe not as big as you might expect at 4,500. This is the spot, by the way. So, here we are in Toronto on Google Maps. If you guys follow my Call of Duty stuff as well, we went to, I think it was here, yeah, the Matamé Athletics Center, which is where the Call of Duty events have been hosted over the last couple of years in this arena. And look, it's a great arena. It doesn't hold as many people. I think it's about 3,000 or so you can fit into here. Excellent arena in Toronto if you want to make it work. But there's other options too. Of course, they're going to be down at the, the exhibition place or whatever it's called. Yeah, the NRK Garage basically is what this venue is actually going to be known as. There is, however, right next door, which is what's been causing a lot of controversy as well, the Coca-Cola Coliseum. So, this is I mean, look at it. It's a pretty spectacular venue that could be used pretty perfectly, you'd think, especially for the finals of the Masters events. This could make a lot of sense, but instead, they're going to be literally next door at the Enercare Centre. And, well, we've already seen some of the pictures of that already. Not like it shouldn't be a great venue, but it's just the way that they're doing it doesn't necessarily seem to be as good as it could be. I'm sure Toronto's an expensive city, that funds and resources and subsidies are probably involved, but it doesn't seem to be good for the average fan. Now, whether that's also to some degree true of the way they did the ticket sales, that's also another question as well. So, look, I've had some experiences on Ticketmaster, and it's just never a good time. This website though, axs.com, you're thinking, okay, maybe these guys will be better, maybe, after all the scalping problems that we always have, maybe that's going to be fine. But if you have a look at some of these tickets here, you'll find that there's not that much you can do about it, especially for the end of the tournaments, because these tickets are long gone. So the semi-finals, right, so basically when it comes to the real proper stage of the tournament, right, the earlier matches you can still get tickets for, but the later stage matches, they've all been sold out just instantly. So the final weekend, which is really what everyone's going to go for, the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these were all sold out immediately, and there's nothing you can do to get some back. Now, this was the experience of many trying to get the tickets. They would get in the queue 60 minutes early before they came out to make sure you'd get there. You get put into the virtual line, and then as soon as everything starts, you get session expired, it kicks you out, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, this is a very common feature, unfortunately, of all sorts of booking websites, and effectively it comes down to what you might call scalpers or bots, basically, that go in there, they buy up all the tickets, and then they sell them on third-party sites. So sure, if you want to go to Masters Toronto, you can just pay a load of money on a third-party site, which you shouldn't have to pay. So it's such a classic problem that Riot and many others have dealt with in the recent past that surely you'd think there could be a better solution than this, but seemingly not for now. So the jokes, of course, were going pretty nuclear on this, because many of the players, coaches, whoever were saying, well, hang on a second, why is it so difficult to go to a massive tournament, right? As Dapper says, I won a Masters a long time ago, can I go instead? And as Drew Sparks says, it sounds like it'll be easier to qualify for Masters Toronto than actually to buy the tickets and to attend. So, I just pretty thought it was a funny comment, right? And maybe some teams actually do feel that way to some degree. Obviously, Ryan's G2B, he gave his thoughts on the matter as well. But even, let's say Marved, legend of the Canadian scene in the Valorant world, not competing as it stands. Maybe he can come back at some point, but he's obviously been enjoying himself doing some stuff. And as Marv says, how can I even get tickets to this thing? Right? It's not possible. Okay, look, sure, the players, let's say, they will have access to give guest passes to some of their friends, but it's still, look, if even some of these guys are saying, like, how do I get tickets to go to this event because I can't buy them, right? Like, who have I got to speak to make it happen? Then what do you think it's like for the regular fans trying to make this one work, right? So yeah, this is what it was, right? These were the ticket sales available for the big final days immediately after everything went live, and immediately the tickets were 10x the price over on StubHub if you actually want to make it in the end. So it's frustrating because there's not many events a year at all. I mean, there's barely ever any events at all. Knowing that there's so many out there, probably some of you guys among them as well, who really wanted to go to the final weekend here in Toronto, but now you're not sure that it makes really any sense to do so, because immediately after the tickets went live, they're getting resold for $800 a pop, pretty much 10x the price over on the third-party sites. So, look, maybe that price over time will come down, but it's just, again, for the execution of this was an absolute disaster, and, they need to get on top of it very quickly indeed. So very much into your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Just one final thing I thought was interesting here, right, because we know that a few years ago, when the game first came out, there was all this talk about, well, shooting is the most important thing, it's not about the abilities and all this. Now, of course, times change, right? Like, the game moves on, the game moves in a direction that they want to go more so than what the Valorant developers initially said, and I think that's to some degree understandable, but as Chronicle says, a proper feedback to the devs through social media would be not saying obvious things, but suggesting something unique and not blatant, as name agent, the nerf agent name, please, is so unplayable. From my perspective, the problem of the game is that if you look at the game as a triangle, you've got the shooting, the utility, and the team play. Utility heavily overlaps with the other side of the game, and while I've think nerfs of specific agents will only temporarily change the game to a better state, I have something more interesting to propose. What if Valorant never had a recharge or cooldown on abilities? What if the feature will only be available to smokers, which I guess makes some sense. But, it's an interesting idea. So the idea fundamentally being that you don't get your stuff back during the round. So you get your opportunity to use it, and once you've used it, it's gone. And therefore, let's say the taking space piece of the puzzle, you may use utility for that, but then once you've done so, there's not much else you can do, and therefore it's going to be more focused on shooting. It would be a substantial change to the game, but it would be something at least maybe to consider, because I know that lots of players feel like the game is kind of getting away from them in terms of where they want, what they want Valorant to actually be. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.